everyone, and welcome back to the Mosaic podcast. I'm T. Marie, and I'm here with Shreya and Roseberry. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about our three different perspectives on K pop. But first, for those of you who don't know, what even is K pop? So, K pop, short for Korean popular music, began in the 90s in South Korea, and it's a genre that fuses pop, hip hop, R&B, electronic music, etc. But what really sets it apart goes beyond the sound of it. In K pop, artists are often called idols, and they're trained for years in everything from singing to rapping to dancing and language skills. And this creates a polished performer by the time they're ready to debut. The industry thrives on deep fan engagement, high concept fashion, and super creative music videos that tell amazing stories. And they even also release music in multiple languages. And this makes it more interactive, trend setting, and internationally connected. So, we all each have three different levels of engagement with K pop. I've been a K pop fan for about 4 years now, and I would say I'm the most engaged with the K pop scene out of the three of us. Shreya was introduced to K-pop about 7 years ago, but didn't fully get engaged until she started listening to BTS in 2020. And Roseberry is our newest K-pop fan. She follows ATEEZ pretty regularly, but outside of that, she more so has just a general idea of the rest of the K-pop world. So, we're going to get started with our questions. And first, I want to figure out, when did we all get introduced to K-pop? What was a defining factor, moment, or reasoning as to why we got into it?
I will go first since I'm fairly recent. I actually was introduced to K-pop in like middle school. I've told you guys this, but I've had multiple friends who were K-pop fans. So in middle school, my best friend in middle school loved Big Bang, I think, and so I would listen with her, watch videos with her, all that, just being a good friend. I'm gonna engage with that. And then in high school, I had a friend who was into. I think she was a BTS fan, honestly. I might be wrong, but I think so. Um, and so I would ask her questions. College, same thing. But I don't know what happened. Last year, T showed me, like, she had concert tickets to TXT and ATEEZ. And she wanted to go with someone. And I was like, oh, I love concerts. Just show me a playlist. And so we went to TXT. I had a playlist. Like, I think it was like a week prep, right?
Yeah, it was
Long.
short. It was short.
Yeah. But it was really cool. And the concert was really impressive. I think I was just really impressed with K pop as a whole, the dancing, the singing. I had never been to a concert like that, really. And then with ATEEZ, I had like 2.5 months to prepare, and I got to know ATEEZ as a group a lot better. Um, and what really solidified me as an ATEEZ was that Mama's 2019 performance. That performance from ATEEZ was phenomenal. Truly, like, amazing. And I think I had at that point gotten over the basics of K-pop, so I understood a lot more. And then when I saw the performance themselves and understood like all the work that it took to get there and the different mashups that they did of other songs, I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And Mingy ate that one up. Like, truly, I honestly think that's Mingy's performance. But yeah, that's what solidified me as an ATEEZ. And then, like, I guess if you're an ATEEZ fan, you kind of have to understand K-pop. So I know a lot more about other K-pop groups and K-pop ideology, but not necessarily an expert, I would say.
Shreya?
So I remember the first time I watched a K-pop video. It was with my this was back in 2016, I think. I was new to college, and a friend was watching a BTS video. Initially, I found it jarring, because I just wasn't used to the different colored hair and the makeup and the visual. It was just too bright, and I was ignorant. So I was just like, "What is this? Look, get away from me!" Um, to 2018, 2019, when I was in college, my new roommate was into K-pop, and she never tried to get me into it. She was listening and was playing music while she was in the shower, and I was like, "That's nice." And then she was going gaga over a video, so I was like, "Okay, show it to me." And then I saw it. I saw my first EXO video. Then I think it was Love Shot or Monster. I don't remember. And I was like, "Ooh, ooh, that's interesting." So then I started listening to EXO music a lot more. And then after that, I started watching K dramas then. So then whenever they would play a soundtrack that I really liked, I would go and listen to that soundtrack. So that expanded my list a little. But the final thing happened is when I was working, I was really depressed. By within 6 months, I was like pulling my hair out, depressed, and so not burnt out. So I randomly came across a BTS song, and it hooked me. And then I just went deeper and deeper into that rabbit hole. Yeah.
Period. And I think it was Love Shot because I remember you talking about Kai in the red suit. I remember that, and I know that's Love Shot.
No, I don't know whether that was the first video or it was shoot reacting to Monster or a performance. So but I remember Love Shot being like, I was like, okay. Yeah. Remember doing the dance move as well. So embarrassing. A friend of mine has a video of me doing it, and I was like, no, never seen the light of day. If I can do anything about it.
I need that video. For me, I actually, similar to y'all, I was told, I don't think I was ever shown a video, but back in high school, one of my friends like brought up K-pop to me. I don't even remember what group, but at the time I didn't give it a fair shot. I was just kind of like, oh, okay, I don't think that's something I'd be into. And I don't think I ever saw anything or heard anything, but I shot it down. Similar to Shreya, just ignorant for no reason. But then it was around like December of 2020. I was scrolling on TikTok and I heard Blackpink, How You Like That, and I was like, oh, that sounds like interesting. Let me check that out. So I think for about a month I had like 3 Blackpink songs in my like rotational on like Spotify and everything. But I kind of interacted with it the same way I do most music, where I don't really get to know the artist. I just listen to the music and I go about my business. But then as I was looking at Blackpink stuff more, like the music video, my algorithm on YouTube started changing, and I saw a BTS music video advertised, and I had heard BTS, but I didn't know them for real. So I was like, okay, let me just like check it out. So the first music video was Fake Love. I remember I watched it. I had something to go, so I had somewhere to go, so I left. But I was like, oh, I'm gonna circle back. But I was like, I get the hype. And then that night, I believe I started watching. It was like 9 p.m. at night. I started watching it again. And then next thing I knew, it was 2 a.m. and I was watching like BTS in America moments. And that's the day that I celebrate my Armyversary every single year. January 2nd, 2021 was the day I became an Army. And yeah, from there, it really started like the first few months I was like more so just locked in on BTS, trying to get to know them and their story and then the greater K-pop space. But then after that I started saying, oh, who's this and who's that? And yeah, and I haven't stopped since. So as we continue to talk about what got us into K-pop, let's kind of touch on what were some of the things that stood out to us as different in K-pop compared to other things that we were already exposed to.
For me, okay, there's like 3 things. First, to speak to like being introduced to K-pop earlier on in like middle school, high school, all that, and but not really being a fan, but asking questions. The biggest thing I saw was the cultural appropriation. I'm not gonna lie. I saw a lot of the braids and the fake locks and then the way they would dress, and it just felt a lot like cultural appropriation of Black culture, like specifically African American culture. And then sometimes you can hear like some influence, like you hear hip hop influences, and then you can hear like Afrobeats influences, but it didn't seem like an appreciation of the culture. It just seemed like, oh, this is cool now, let me do it. And how old was I? 11, 12-year-old at the time. It just felt weird. And so that's something that stood out to me. And as the years went on, I kept seeing it. Like it wasn't a one-time thing. Even now in a lot of K-pop groups, you still see the appropriation of Black culture. And so that was something that I didn't necessarily enjoy. And that's how I kind of categorized K-pop. I was like, oh, it's good, but it's really appropriation. Like, I don't know what's unique to them. Fast forward to now, or like a year ago, after seeing ATEEZ, I feel like, and BTS, because you showed me a lot of BTS too. I feel like K-pop stands out with their performances. Like, I feel like, I keep saying I feel like, stop it, okay. K-pop has a performance-heavy focus. The singing, the rapping, the dancing, the visuals, all of that, the lighting. And that is something I don't see in Western culture as much anymore. I feel like maybe in like the 2010s it was there, but now it's kind of died down. You have more Billie Eilish, Olivia Rodrigo, Victoria Monet, like very more so calm vibes, even SZA. And so that stood out to me, and I really liked that. I really enjoyed seeing the performances and learning about storylines, and even the way they dress. Like they're always changing their hair color, and then like within a group of 8, understanding the different styles that they have and how it's cohesive, but it's also individualistic. Like it's very intentional. It feels with their performances, and I appreciate that. And then the last thing is treatment of the idols. Like I learned last year about the fact that like K-pop ideology is basically like you're a trainee for a few years, and then you can debut if you're ready or if you fit in the group. And that blows my mind. To this day, it's something that I understand, and I think it's helpful because now by the time you debut, you're ready to take on the physical, mental, and emotional challenges. Not everything, but most of the challenges that come with like being an idol because they train you that way. But then I always think about those people who were trainees for like 6, 7 years and never got to debut and just left and got and did something else. Or the people who were trainees for like 6, 7 years debuted, and then after a year or two they get disbanded. I think it's a very cutthroat process, so that really stands out to me because the people who do make it, I can't say one person deserves it over another, but the people who do make it, they work really hard to keep it and to maintain it. So I think their work ethic is really impressive too. Um, but yeah, those 3 things: cultural appropriation, performances, and then their ideology when it comes to training.
I agree. Trey, what about you?
But for me, the first thing that stood out were the visuals. First, I found it jarring, and then I found it mesmerizing. That the performance, I agree with Rose. The performance heavy, and their performance shows the effort and precision that goes into doing something like that. And it's not just like, how do you say, you can do a really difficult dance move, difficult choreography, but it's not appealing to the eye. Yeah, I see you've put in hard work, but there's no rhythm to it. K-pop has rhythm to it. Their
Right.
performances are smooth. Yeah, so that's something that I really like about it. There's something weirdly meritocratic about it. I don't know why. um, I guess with the way they go through their training and their selection, I'm not saying it's not without its flaws. There are flaws there, deep flaws, but it feels like anybody could at least attempt to go about it. So I find that really interesting. It's not just somebody who had a band, garage band the other day has decided to become a K-pop star. I think that's cool too, but it's systematic. I don't know whether I find that entirely appealing, but it does stand out. The fact that they have a team leader, that they have a greeting,
Mm-hmm.
like BTS does something like this, and then they bow. So the way it's very hierarchical and systematic. That stood out to me. And another thing is that I feel K-pop has brought back boy and girl bands. There was a vacuum in between. I feel there was a vacuum when it comes to mainstream or let's say worldwide success and popularity of boy groups
Mm-hmm.
and girl groups, and K-pop brought that back. Um, so yeah, that stood out.
I
That was,
agree.
yeah, that was actually one of the things that I was going to bring up as well. I feel like pop groups in like the Western music industry, excluding like bands, like I'm not talking like Imagine Dragons, Coldplay, all of them, but like pop groups don't come around as often. And like you'll have the Fifth Harmonies, Mindless Behaviors, the Destiny Childs, and the One Directions every now and then, like every few years. But it doesn't happen as often as like in K-pop, and I think the variety that you can find within K-pop
Mm-hmm.
really drew me in, and it's like it's something new with every group that you experience. But I think I also appreciated the more I got into K-pop and just kind of like saw like different groups' works and everything. I love the flexibility that you have in the sense that you don't have to leave your group to still explore like your own musical sound. And of course, there's certain levels to it. Like you have to have certain marketability, and your company has to have the resources to be able to do that. So I know that's a privilege that some groups have and other groups don't. But I feel like, especially when you look at some Western groups that have broken up, a lot of members who leave will say, well, I didn't really get to make the music that I wanted to make. And it's
Mm-hmm.
a shame because it's like, I they make such great music together as a group. Like Zayn did that, right? That's one of the reasons
Yeah.
why Zayn left. And it's like One Direction had great music, but it's also a shame that he didn't get to explore the musical identity that he wanted to have through that band as well. So I love that with K-pop groups, they are given that opportunity to do that, and I think it's becoming more popular as years go on. Like Shiny, all their members have had solo stuff. EXO, a lot of them have. BTS, ITZY, ATEEZ, Blackpink, and so much more. Like I love that they have the flexibility to be able to do that. Another thing, I agree with y'all about like the whole performance aspect. It's like out of this world. I remember when I saw that, it was like such a big draw in for me because it's like I had seen great performances before, but it's just it feels like a different type of artistry with K-pop, and that was just something where it's like once I saw that, I was like, "Oh yeah, I need to see the next one and the next one." And not just that, like you'll see different interpretations of the same songs, like if you see them on a music show or at an award show, like the way they'll like change different things and bring out different aspects. I love that so much.
To echo something that Shreya said, though, that I didn't think about, but I truly agree with, anyone has a chance, truly. Because you're given the opportunity to train, you're given the opportunity to learn to sing, rap, dance, to produce music, the languages. And so I do appreciate that about K pop culture. It's not necessarily like, you're the one. Because I feel like with a lot of groups in Western culture, it's always like, oh, we were all on X Factor, and then they put us together as a group. You know, like Little Mix, Fifth Harmony, One Direction. And then you have a few exceptions, like Why Don't We? They were just friends and decided to start a group. I think Mindless Behavior was like that too. But yeah, I like the opportunity of, oh, we're going into this with the mindset of we're learning and working hard and potentially getting into a group, and then everyone can bring their individuality into it and then see what works because anyone has a chance. So I think that's really cool.
Absolutely. And you guys both touched on the trainee period a bit, so I want to move the conversation into what do we think about K-pop ideology from training to debuting to idol behavior slash persona.
Well, idol behavior and persona is a separate beast altogether. I need a second to condense my
Fair.
thoughts. Rose, do you want to go first?
Sure. Um, I think for me, a lot of what I'm gonna say touches on another podcast we already let out that's already released about anti-blackness and K-pop culture, right? That's what it's called. That's what our podcast is.
Cultural sensitivities, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I find K-pop ideology fascinating. And I think it is a really beautiful ideology that was put together, but it's not necessarily carried out in the best ways. I think that the concept of training for years to become an expert at something makes sense, right? Like we go to college for 4 years to become an expert at whatever it is we're getting our degree in. So it makes sense if you're going to be in a K-pop group, you do the same thing. For years, you just learn and train. But I do think that a lot of times trainees can be set up for failure because what the company is looking for isn't always communicated with them, from my understanding. And the company will put them in situations to kind of test them to see, oh, do you have what it takes? And I don't think that's the most, is the word conducive environment?
Conducive
To
of,
what?
yeah,
Okay,
conducive of.
thank you. I don't think it's conducive of being able to understand your style as an artist. I think it kind of forces you into like these mind games of like, oh, what do they want? How do I balance what they want and what I can deliver? And so can understand the mental toll that can take. Also, within, I guess, broader Korean culture, from my understanding, mental health is really stigmatized. And so I think with K-pop ideology, if you're breaking them down to build them back up, that's kind of how I see it sometimes. They're taking away your flaws to make you perfect. But then there's this stigma of mental health. How are you supposed to manage the mental health that comes with that? For someone to be breaking down who you are and the flaws that you have, even if they're doing it in a positive way, like even if they're trying to do it in a very helpful, caring way, you're still breaking someone down. And you're doing it in a society where mental health is stigmatized and it's difficult to get help. And so I would love for K-pop ideology to incorporate that into their training. And then on top of that, incorporating cultural sensitivity as well, because you're telling these trainees this is what I want, or sometimes you're telling these trainees this is what I want, or you're setting them up to like say or do things that work for you, like the whole thing with Blackpink and like three of them saying the N word while they're trainees, right? No excuse for it, but the company set them up, right? So what are we putting into the K-pop ideology, the trainee cycle, to make us think, oh, okay, like this is what we want you to do, but this is how you properly do it. This is what education is there, basically, to help
Mm.
them carry it through. So that's what I think of K-pop ideology. Again, it's only been a year. I only know so much. But I feel like there's a lot of holes that people are just ignoring, and it's causing a lot of problems for these idols during their trainee period and after their trainee period. And I can only imagine the toll it's taking on them mentally. But the concept is
Mm-hmm.
great. It's just carrying out that concept doesn't seem to be done in a very effective way.
Yeah, I think similarly, the trainee period is such like a core part of the industry, but also
Mm-hmm.
essential as like I think it is needed for them to like do the training. It is the methods that are used
Yeah.
though. And I think it's such a risk. Similar, I was thinking very similar to like things that Rose has said. Like some kids will spend like their whole childhoods working towards this dream and trying to craft themselves into the idol that they see themselves debuting as, and then they never make it. And even for the ones who do make it, hundreds of K-pop groups will debut in a year, and most of them won't make it past the first 100 days or a year, and they'll end up
Mm-hmm.
having to disband and maybe even have company debt as well. But I don't know all the specific.
Specific.
Specifics?
Yeah, we'll go with that. So I was trying to say specifications. Yeah, I don't know all the specifications with that, but yeah, sometimes that happens as well. And I just think it can be so damaging, especially when you have kids
Mm-hmm.
so young in this training period, and it's like certain things that happen, like the constant tracking of like their food, and of course it's different based off of the company and everything, and some of
Mm-hmm.
this happened maybe a few years ago, maybe not so much anymore, but there's no like standardized program as well. It's different depending on the company, but like tracking their food, withholding communication with family, lack of sleep that they get, because also a lot of times they have to go to school as well, and then they come back and train. Like what regular childhood do they get to have? And then also like harsh comments about like their weight and their appearance, that is like so damaging to like kids, especially who are so young, so impressionable, and they're still like figuring out who they are.
Mm-hmm.
But with everything in the trainee program and then like debuting, idol behavior I feel like makes sense for the industry it's set in.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so like perfection is like impossible, but that's kind of like the expectation for a role model, for an idol to be a role model in like all aspects. And I think regardless of how like a lot of people feel, which is like they're real life people, they're humans, they're going to make mistakes just like you and I do. But within the industry, that's what they kind of need to adhere to fit inside of the idol box. And so I think when you also look at the fandoms that follow K-pop, it's really a cycle of toxic like parasocial relationships for real. Like idols need to
Yes.
appear available, boyfriend slash girlfriend coded, sweet, funny, charming. And when things happen like, oh, a dating scandal, or oh, they caught them smoking, or oh, they're in the club, or they're having behaviors that people just don't think that idols should subscribe to,
Mm-hmm.
it breaks that illusion that the ones who don't touch grass, the Lulu, it's not always the Salulu. The people who do that, when their like illusions of what their idol should be get broken, that's when idols can like lose everything they've worked for years just because of small
Mm-hmm.
things like that everyone does. Like all of us do these things, especially when we're young. You know what I mean? But the reality is the industry runs on that parasocial aspect. It like requires it. That if there's no parasocial relationship, people aren't going to spend a band on one singular concert ticket so then they can get an
Yeah.
interaction, possibly. It's not even guaranteed, possibly at a send off. If there's no parasocial relationship, people aren't going to buy hundreds of albums for the shot at having like a 60-second fan call chat with their favorite idol. Like they kind of need it. So even though there's all these like K-pop fans who can see like the hypocrisy of the way K-pop idols are treated, the
Mm-hmm.
companies realistically aren't going to do anything about it because the parasocial relationships are what gets them the most money at the end of the day. So like the idol persona is necessary for them. It's like an armor. Like they are at work. Like, yeah, they're doing fan service, they're doing this and that. They are employees. You know what I mean? Look, what did Coco Jones say? I was an employee.
And you would do it for a check too. I was gonna get employee of the month.
Exactly what it is. And so I remember it was maybe like last year, the year before last, they were talking about this idol named One Young. She was initially in a group called Eyes One, but they were like a 2.5 year group. And then now she's in IVE. And I remember she was like kind of like the face of like, I think she's fourth gen. She was like the face of fourth gen. She was everywhere in Korea. And people would start to say, well, she seems so calculated. She seems so manicured. And did you see the way she ate a strawberry? It was like stupid things, but it's like, that girl's on top. That's the persona she needs to be able to exceed in this world she's in. All power to her, because she's doing what she needs to do so that she can stay afloat in this industry. And if she didn't do that stuff, it would be a whole different story and she would still hear about it. So I just think it's interesting, but people love this claim that they want authenticity from idols, but then they get mad when they see the authenticity. So
you touched on so many things that are in my head. But the one thing I want to bring up is gender. Like that's not something I brought up, but that is something about the K-pop ideology that I also think needs to be reevaluated. And it's a worldwide thing. Like we all know around the world, men and women have different standards, and usually women have higher standards they have to meet that are imperfect, right? Which is 10 times worse in when you're an idol, and even the men have to be perfect, so the women have to be flawless, basically. And I feel like a lot of times with these parasocial relationships with the boy groups, it's a lot easier because like, oh my, because most K-pop fans are female. There's obviously male K-pop fans too, of course, and non-binary, but for the most part, they're young girls, or not even young girls, 20s, I would say. Females, like women, they're women.
Yeah,
like
women.
I don't know the age range, but I feel like they're like young adults, adolescents.
They be grown sometimes because they got
sometimes
money.
Yeah, but I feel like on average it's usually like young adults. And so with boy groups, it's a lot easier because that parasocial relationship is like, oh, he's so cute, oh, it's amazing, oh my god, like can't wait to meet him, I saw him, ah. But with girl groups, I feel like the parasocial relationships, it's not necessarily a romantic parasocial relationship or a delusional romantic parasocial relationship. I feel like it's more so of a like, this is a princess almost. Like this is what it means to be a woman. And I think that is really difficult when you're just like, oh, this is a relationship, a romantic one. Everyone has different perspectives and tastes in men and women when you want to date someone, right? But when you're like, oh, this is what it means to be a woman, that's a really big burden to put on girls when we are intersectional. And I think in K-pop ideology, they really do try to have all the girls be the same. And when you see a girl that does stand out, sometimes they're either thrown a lot of hate because they don't look like, or they're not acting like a woman or looking like a woman, or they do have a good following. And they're like, people are supporting them and uplifting them because they are different and they resonate with that. But that's not the norm. And so I feel like gender is something that should be reevaluated in K-pop ideology, because women are truly attacked and ostracized sometimes just for being themselves because people want them to be, this is a woman. These are the check boxes you have to fit or meet, the check boxes you have to meet. And if you don't meet them, then you're not representing women and you're a disgrace. It's really extreme sometimes. And so I hope women are kind of speaking up a little bit more. And I hope there's more women in the business rooms, conference rooms, speaking up for them and advocating for them too. But that's it.
One thing I'll say with that is like, yes, there's like a lot of like female K-pop fans, but there's also a lot of male K-pop fans. And I think it's a whole other topic to talk about the male fans that follow girl groups. Like if you see, especially some of like the earlier Twice live performances and recording, when they do the fan chants, it's male dominated. Like you can't hear female voices. And I think it's really interesting, especially when you look at the concepts that girl groups do. When Twice was doing their more cutesy concepts, you had a lot of guys who, and some of them were much younger. You have a lot of older guys there supporting them and all like, oh my goodness, I love you, Nyan, and oh my goodness, I love you, Momo. And it's a little creepy. So I think let me not come for these men because some of them I'm sure are of pure intent. but some of them aren't.
Mm.
And that's what I'm speaking to. And I think that is a whole other dynamic when you look at the different demographics of fans for K-pop idols. But yeah, I agree with what you said, but I would also add on that aspect.
The
It's
sexualization of
interesting.
young women.
Yeah.
That I agree with. That I 100% agree with. Sexualization of hyper-sexualization actually of 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds is just, they know
Children.
no better. They're children. They know no better. They want to be an idol. They don't understand the consequences or the weight that is added to being when they're being made to dress a certain way, sing a certain way, make those facial expressions, make dance those moves. It's not age appropriate at all, or good for their mental well-being or development in general. But to each their own.
And the fan service that they have to do and how they can't react certain
Yeah.
ways.
Yes,
Yeah.
I find it a little concerning simply because of the kind of clothes and the way the women are supposed to be. Like all that ague stuff that they're supposed to do, which is supposed to be like flirty baby talk. Little, it's a little pedophilic, honestly, if you're doing it for
Lolita.
men.
It gives Lolita.
Just teeny bit. I find it a little cougar when they made Jungkook do stuff like that. Or when Jungkook was put in positions like that when he was like 15.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm only taking these names because I only know these people. I don't know anybody else, and I don't want to assume. Initially, I thought that the boys had it harder than the girls, simply because from what I've seen, the fans are harsher to men, famous K-pop boy groups when they break the ideal, the facade that they're supposed to put on when they're in public. But I haven't read enough about or explored enough about girl groups to understand it. The only examples that I have in my from the top of my head are like Hwasa, who was always outspoken and bold, and she's liked because of that. And maybe Blackpink members, but they're also stifled like the rest of them. So it's interesting that I find your perspectives really interesting. I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely would want to look more. I mean, I have, but like I would like to do further and more. But the struggles that male versus female idols have are unique in their own right, but it's like both are very polarizing as well.
Mm.
And they're different, but like, yeah, they both go through it with different things.
Yeah, I will say this though. There's this weird sort of ownership, whether it
Yeah.
be weird sort of ownership that I've seen among female K-pop fans over the idols that they usually male idols that they associate with or have parasocial relationships that I don't find with the male ones. I think there's a tinge more of reality when it comes to the male fans who know that whatever this is, the other person. I mean, I don't know. I don't find this is unhinged. This is slightly less unhinged. That's how I'm going to put it when it comes to the when it comes to the when it comes to them sticking claim over the idol. I find women go a little, female fans go a little overboard with that.
I feel like you do see it more with female fans. I won't. Yeah, I would just say it's more obvious, but I know it definitely happens with male fans as well. Like I know
Mm-hmm.
too many female K-pop idols who have stalkers that it's bad. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so it'll be
I
interesting
think
to look into it more. Yeah.
I think with that, the reason I haven't necessarily, not that I haven't thought about it. Okay, when it comes to ownership and like female idols having stalkers, to me, I guess in my head, I was like, oh yeah, female celebrities always have stalkers. Like I feel like that's something across the board that you see is the lack of protection around female celebrities and the way that they're usually targeted in different ways, like sexually speaking, romantically speaking. Like they're just usually targeted by males, sometimes females as well. But I think specifically within K-pop, it's striking to me the ownership that female fans oftentimes have over male idols. That was new, and I was like, yo. I remember after I became a K-pop fan, the first scandal that you told me about, T, was or that was happening was that one dude, a video, his friend, quote unquote, released a video of him like partying and he had a
Oh,
girlfriend.
oh, Sunghoon. Yeah, Sunghan from Rise. Yeah,
Yes,
he's
and he was like
still not back
getting
in the
kicked
group.
out.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, he
not
got
back in the
kicked
group.
out.
Yeah.
And after that, I was just really blown. I was really surprised by it because I was like, he is a man. Like, he's a human being. Of course he parties. Of course he has girlfriends. Like, why is it to the point of like, oh,
And he
we're
was
disappointed
smoking.
in you? And he was,
Yeah.
and even then, it's like, I know drugs is more of a serious deal in Korea than in America, but I feel like we've seen enough and heard enough within K-pop music. Even I know some people have sung about it, where it's like to push it to the point of them getting kicked out is crazy. To send like death threats is crazy. And
Yeah.
that's striking to me. I feel like it's normal. It shouldn't be normal, but it's normal for women to get that, women celebrities. But I've never seen that really with males in Western culture.
The distinction I want to draw here is that all of this, all of that, what you just said, the death threats, the cutting people out, ruining their career, or justifying, is all okay. It's accepted. Fans
Yeah.
reacting in this
Yeah.
way, in this irrational manner, because they feel in some way cheated by an idol having a life of their own, is in itself, it legitimizes their reaction. You know,
Mhm.
when you stalk someone, female female artists are less protected than male artists. That's a fact. We can't deny that. But I also feel that whether stalking and harassment happens to a male or a female artist, it's not legitimized. Nobody's saying that the stalker is a good person. They're saying stalker, creep, bad. They won't penalize the artist for that. They might neglect the artist. They may not protect the artist, but nobody is legitimizing that action. But this entire way of this ownership, overwhelming sign of ownership that you have over the artist, which leads them to lose everything that they've worked for all their life,
Mm-hmm.
is legitimized, and I find that disturbing.
With like the legitimization that happens again on the Sunghan situation, the way fans organized to send funeral wreaths to boycott him
Yes.
being in the group, and the company left it for days. Now, when Yoongi got sent some funeral wreaths, first of all, Hive and Army were taking that ish down immediately. But I just think that is so laughable in a bad way on SM's part that they pretty much validated the feelings of those fans who wanted
Mm-hmm.
Sunghan kicked out.
After a year of like getting into K-pop, I really do at some point, it's on my list. But I do want to read about the history of Korea just to understand like the thought process, the sociology behind it. Because when stuff happens in America, because I am basically a history buff for American culture at least, I I can kind of analyze it through that perspective and like, oh, maybe this is the influence as to why. But
Mm-hmm.
let's face it, we're outsiders. Like, we're K-pop fans,
Yeah.
of course, but we're not Korean. We're outsiders. We don't understand their culture and their history and what they've been through. So we don't necessarily understand why the fandom reaction is like that. Not to say non-Korean fans don't also go to those extreme. I'm sure they do. But for the most part, it seems to be K-netizens who are that way. But there's a reason for everything. So I do want to figure out what book would be best for me to read, if there's a documentary, just so I can better understand Korean culture. Because all I really know, the Korean War, I know they were colonized by Japan, and there was a lot of, I mean, with any colonization, there's a lot of trauma there. So those are the main two things that I know. So I would love to know more, and then maybe in understanding their history, socially speaking and politically speaking, I can understand why they react the way that they do. Because right now, I'm just like, that's weird. That's weird. But I can't really call them. I can't really call them weird because at the end of the day, I'm not even trying. I don't even fully understand them yet. So I need to do that first. But yeah, I just need to figure out what book to read.
Drop some suggestions for Roseberry below,
please, because I need to understand.
Next, we're going to move into how have the influences of K-pop impacted music in the Western industry, and are they getting recognition for that?
Okay, I can go first.
I was just sorry. Go ahead. I don't know why this happens. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Honestly,
I'm
you just
sorry.
take really long pauses, and I'm used to just in like talking in pauses, but um, it's fine. Anyway, I think it's the other way around. I think Western. I was truly thinking about this, and I think Western music has influenced K-pop. I don't necessarily think K-pop music has influenced Western. Not that there's no influence. I'm sure there is influence, but when I look at K-pop broadly speaking, and with me only knowing about K-pop for like the last year, like deeply, I guess, knowing about K-pop for the last year, I just see so much Western influence in K-pop more so than the other way around, and I think the reason for that is within Western music there is a barrier for K-pop artists. I think there's I don't know if lack of respect is too harsh, but I feel like in the Western music industry there's a lack of respect for K-pop artists as a whole. I think BTS has forced some respect because of all that they've been able to do and accomplish. But I still think there's this hesitancy for the Western music industry to accept K-pop artists as artists. Um, and I think it's because Western culture doesn't necessarily align with Korean culture and Korean ideology. And so it's this aspect of, oh, I don't know, oh, that doesn't make sense, oh, that's weird, that's not what we do. So it's kind of like a hesitancy. I wouldn't necessarily say K-pop hasn't influenced Western music by choice, or I wouldn't say K-pop hasn't influenced Western music because it couldn't. It's more so Western music isn't accepting K-pop culture and K-pop music enough to be really understand and be influenced. I think artists like Megan Thee Stallion are doing a really good job bridging the two. Um, and I think RM does a good job too. Before I keep talking, I'm not Army. I don't know too much about BTS. I just know what T and Shreya tell me, and then I've listened to their songs. But even RM's album, the brown one with the brown background, and
Indigo.
he's like, sure, Indigo. Even that album, he has a lot of features on there that are prominent Western artists, especially American. And so I think there's some bridges being built, but it's very one off. It's not necessarily a global big bridge being built, if that makes sense. And
Mm.
also, K-pop has a history of culturally appropriating Black people, so I can also understand the hesitancy that's shown there.
When I was thinking about this question, I really wanted to look at Cat's Eye as a group because I really think they're the group to look out for in terms of how the Western music industry will continue um cohabitating. I don't really love that word.
Mm-hmm.
Cohabitating with K-pop. And I think it's because Cat's Eye marries American pop music sensibilities with K-pop training and marketing. And on top of that, they're free of the constraints that idols have because they're based in America. So they don't have to subscribe to the personas and the behaviors that idols do. They can speak freely about things like their sexuality. They curse freely, which, like, they're like 20 something year olds as normal, which K-pop idols curse, but they try to keep it minimum. And then they feel more relaxed in how they're able to portray themselves to their fans and their audiences. And so I think it would be interesting to see if we see some subtle replications of Cat's Eye from the Western music industry, because I would say they're a group that is very digestible for American audiences. They're very diverse. You have people from all over the world. Um, they have the big performances with all the choreography that people love, and a lot of their music is like catchy, and a lot of, like, you'll see big stars interacting with it, so it's getting out there. It's in the mainstream, or at least building into the mainstream of um the Western music industry. Now, do I think K-pop will get credit for that? Not really. But I think it would be interesting in the next couple of years to see if you start to see some Cat's Eye, hate to say copycats, but people who kind of mirror the
Yeah,
similar, yeah.
and
Hmm.
they were created by Hybe, which is a K-pop agency. Or
Hyde and Griffin, yeah.
yeah, so it also makes sense.
I agree with Rose. That I find that the influence of Western music in K-pop far exceeds any influence that K-pop might have on Western music.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when I first started listening to it, and I don't have a very discerning ear or anything of that sort. When I first started listening to K-pop, I just thought it was Korean lyrics and Korean vocals blended with Western music and Western. That's how I thought it was. Um, because the style, the genre seemed to be replicated to the exact as a copy from the West. So that's what I saw it as. But I'm not a big connoisseur. I'm not that knowledgeable. I find that it has created its own identity, heavily
Yeah.
influenced by Western music. Heavily influenced. But I also only listen to EXO, BTS, and a few other artists. So what do I know?
Okay. In what ways have we seen different xenophobic and exclusionary practices that the music industry has shown towards K pop? And does K pop need to be accepted by the Western industry?
Did I
I can
answer this?
I think K-pop should be. I mean, it's good for the Western industry to accept K-pop. Is it? Will they do it? I don't know. Should they do it? Ideally, yes. It'll do them good.
Mm.
I mean, it makes more business sense to me. It makes creative sense to me for them to accept K-pop.
um
Go
yeah.
ahead.
In terms of like the xenophobic practices of it all, um I get so like I brace myself when I see K-pop idols come over here and like interact sometimes with like interviewers and stuff because there have been way too many examples, especially like recent ones too, where it's like y'all should have learned, where it's like they're either unprepared, they're rude, or they're disrespectful. And I just feel like if other American stars came on, you would make sure to do your research so that you don't offend or possibly make others uncomfortable. And so I have a hard time understanding, especially as journalists, some of them are, your job is to make sure that like you get the best interview you can, and uncomfortability from your guests is not something that you should be okay with and strive for.
Mm-hmm.
um but getting into like awards a little bit, the Recording Academy said that they're thinking about making an Asian Grammy Awards, and I just think it is to segregate artists from the primary Grammy Awards. And I just think they did it with the Latin Grammys back in 2000. I just don't
Mm-hmm.
see a point. And also, if you want an award that is like only highlighting Asian voices, like respectfully, they already have awards that do that, that they host
Mm-hmm.
in Japan and in Hong Kong and Korea. Like they have MMA, they have Mama, they have Golden Disc, Soul Music Awards, Asian Artist Awards. Like they have all that. We don't need an Asian Grammys. And it'd be one thing if it felt like they genuinely cared about having an Asian Grammy versus keeping K-pop acts out of their top categories, which I have an issue with.
Yeah.
Um, and when it comes to Billboard, I also have beef with Billboard because they do not treat K-pop artists that well. Um, in 2021, BTS released Butter, and Butter spent 10 weeks at number one for the Billboard Hot 100. And instead of people being like, oh, wow, look at BTS, they're on the up and up. Oh, wow, they're super cool. Oh, wow, they have been around for like a long time. Like they built their way up. The immediate suspicion is that they jumped to, um, did Army commit chart manipulation? And it's like, that's crazy because it's like they wouldn't have said that about Taylor Swift. They wouldn't have said that about Ariana. They wouldn't have said that about Beyonce. But they did for BTS. And I just think that's crazy. And they did a cover shoot where RM was asked about the chart manipulation. And pretty much what he said was, if there's a conversation inside Billboard about what being number one should represent, then it's up to them to change the rules and make streaming way more on the ranking. Slamming us or our fans for getting number one with physical sales and downloads, I don't know if that's right. It just feels like we're easy targets because we're a boy band, a K-pop act, and we have a high fan loyalty.
When will people learn to stop messing with this man?
That's what I'm saying.
Everything you tell me about RM and like his responses to things, it's like you guys are not paying attention to the fact that he can call you out and he has no problem with that. Like, why would you
He's
set yourself
so
up for that?
intelligent. He's so intelligent.
It's not even, and it's also not even an intelligent thing. It's a Actually, I'm gonna
Articulate.
let you finish your thought. It's a bravery thing. It's a matter of like confidence and bravery and being able to say, no, we worked hard and we deserve this, but you're acting like we don't. So let me ask you, why do you think that? Like, question your own biases. But yeah, go ahead. They need to stop messing with him because it's embarrassing every single time they try to call him out.
Yeah, the man shoots straight and direct, and he don't
Mm-hmm.
miss. And I think it is sad because that was 2021. Stuff has happened more recently where they did change rules when BTS got certain achievements. Like when Jimin, um, like Crazy was number 1, they changed the rule. The next week he was number like 66 on the Billboard Hot
What was
100
the
chart.
rule that they changed?
They were trying to address something with chart manipulation again. Chat, I don't even know because they like changing the criteria. Like they changed some award. I think it was for a Grammy, and then they said, "Oh yeah, we'll no longer count Billboard stuff in consideration for X, Y, and Z." And it's like that's interesting because y'all didn't do that any other years besides when BTS had the most. But cool. Um,
So they wanted to be American music alone. So if an
yeah,
American artist produces English, maybe Mexican music,
No, English.
no,
they
only
exclude.
English.
Yeah, they exclude Latin music a lot.
I think this speaks to. Oh, sorry, I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Right. So basically English music produced by an American artist who is not Korean American or Asian American residing in their Asian counterpart country, then we will consider them for the billboards. Is that how it operates? If that is that what they want? In which case you can just call it like the National Award or the American Award for Music or something along those lines. What does the Grammy stand for?
What? What does the
What
Grammy
does the
stand
Grammy
for?
stand for? Yeah.
It's basically a collection of musicians and artists who are seen as maybe experts, from my understanding, who are seen as maybe experts in the field, and then they get to vote on it. Am I wrong? Because I
That
think
sounds right.
those,
I don't know the ins and outs of the Recording Academy, but
yeah,
that sounds correct.
people who are a part of the Recording Academy, these experts who have experience, they technically get to vote on it. I don't know if they go simply based off of the vote or if it's vote and other things, but most of the major awards within American culture, Emmy, Tony, Grammy, Oscar, it's usually an academy that gets together of whatever experts for the that award, and then or that that award, and then they vote on it. And I'm sure there's other factors they consider, but that's usually what happens.
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt based on this whether it's intended to be a national, just an American, the United States of America, American Artists Academy Award, whatever it is, or if it's supposed to include a more global pan of artists, they are doing themselves a disservice by being unethical with the way they're excluding um, artists who are producing English music, from what I understand, for the American audience. Even if it were just national, I still think it's dishonest. It's not. It's unethical. Now, my problem here is not with this. Yes, I expected them to do things like this. I expected the industry to react this way. What I do not like is, why is the Korean industry, which is so exemplary in itself, running behind these awards? Why are they counting their successes through the billboard? Why can't they create their own? They have a global audience. They don't need the billboard. Why are they running behind it? It makes it seem like they want to fit into the ideals that they've created, which is modeled after Western music, and I find
Um,
that really sad.
this is what I actually wanted to touch on. Beyond, I think the music industry is an example of this, but the West is very narcissistic in our perceptions of things because we always go, oh, America's the best, America's the greatest, and this, that, and third. I'm saying America, but it's the West as a whole, like UK, Britain, that area. Like they also, it's this idea of like we know what's best. And I think that like, oh, why are Korean K-pop industry going after this? It's because that's the standard that's set, right? Like, we tend to go after the Western standard of things, the Western standards of music, what music is, the Western standards of anything with entertainment, really, acting, journalism. We go with Western standards of beauty a lot too. I know every culture has their own version of what beauty is that's unique to them, but there is this general Eurocentric idea of what beauty is. I think the West being fairly narcissistic and us saying, oh, we are the best without truly representing that, statistically speaking, it still sets this sometimes unconscious, but oftentimes conscious thought of like, oh, if I can make it in the West, then I've made it. Like, oh, I'm the best in Korea, I'm the best in Asia, but I'm not the best in the world because I'm not the best in America. I think that's the mindset that a lot of artists have, but it's not just them, it's in every aspect of the world. Because if America's the standard and America has put their greasy, dirty fingers into every single aspect of international politics, the entertainment world, education, everything. If America keeps whispering in people's ears, this is what it means to be the best, and you're not reaching the best, you can't get American support. And getting American support means a lot. Getting America's stamp of approval gets you everywhere. And so that's why that's what I think. I think it speaks to that. I can't necessarily articulate it too well because I wasn't planning on diving into this. But the more we talk, like when T brought up the Latin Grammys, that still pisses me off that there's a Grammys and then a Latin Grammys, as if the Grammys being the standard in America and then Latin Grammys is just like subpar. It's like it's a step down. Creating an Asian Music Awards, it's like step down. It's as if we're telling these people they're not talented enough when they're using the same instruments. They're using the same ideologies that some people in America are using. They're having music videos just like us, songs, albums. Everything is the same. It's just the way we approach it is different. But we're saying it's too different. You're not as good as us. So you need to meet our standards. And then when they meet the standard, like you were talking about with BTS and Jimin, from what you said, it's like, oh yeah, you're meeting the standards, but it's still not right. It still doesn't look right. It's still not lining up. You haven't sold your soul to the devil. So we're going to move the standard. And if you reach this, then we can reconsider you. That's what I think it is. Because this is one way we're talking about it with the music industry, but America does this everywhere. It just makes me mad. Sorry. Like colonization and this aspect of like, we know best, so we're going to tell you what to do and what standards you have to reach. It still affects us to this day. And the day that K-pop is like, oh, we don't care anymore, don't think that day is going to come. But the day they're like, oh, we don't care anymore, we're going to stick to our standards, I would really love to see what that looks like. The music will definitely change, I think. It might not be as much Western influence. And even Western... I'm done.
Okay.
Sorry. Because
Why?
I was about to keep going. I just
Why,
felt like
why?
I was...
No.
I haven't... Even the idea of like, we keep saying Western influence, right? Western influence, Western influence, Western influence. And we're using it with the connotation that Western influence is a good thing, but it's not always a good thing. We have a positive connotation associated with that, and we've been using it this entire time, which, I mean, that's the conversation that it's framed in, but Western influence is always not a good thing. And so we keep doing that, and we have to train ourselves not to think that Western ideology is the best or the standard. You know, I know each of us don't necessarily think America's the best or like the number one country. You know, we all have our own perceptions, but subconsciously speaking, when we think about colonization and the world wars and the way currency is a really big one too. Like the world operates on the US dollar. Like these are really big ways that America has subtly put their greasy, sticky fingers in other people's business. And then that subconsciously affects the way that other countries and people start to interpret their own understanding of what it means to be the best. I stop now.
Hegemonizing culture.
Yeah, exactly. And then it leads to cultural erasure too, which we kind of talked about with generational divide, which is another podcast. But it leads to cultural erasure, and I think it's just sad because everyone has their own things to add to the culture, but America's like, it's not that good. Stay over there.
I have two things I want to say. First, with like to the point that Shreya said about like the Grammys, whether it's supposed to be a national thing, it's not, because they literally market it as music's biggest night. Like they make it seem
Mm-hmm.
like that's like the focal point of like music in the world. So it's like it's not, and then they're still excluding others. So it's
Yeah.
the whole thing is like, what is it called?
Funny.
Yeah, phony. That's a good word for it. The other aspect that I was gonna talk about was into the doesn't need to be accepted thing. And ultimately, no, I don't think K-pop. Wait,
Neither.
I don't think they need to aspire to be accepted. Is what I'm saying. But the one thing I do want to say is like I do think when you look at K-pop, the K-pop industry as a whole, you have to acknowledge that the US does have the largest music market, and there's a lot of opportunities and exposure that comes with being linked to them. So I think there's
Yes.
always going to be an appeal to K-pop companies to market to the US. But for some K-pop groups, honestly, I feel like they're bigger than the program. Like the BTS, people watch the Grammys, but BTS then did a live stream afterwards and they had more viewers than the entirety of the Grammys. Like they're bigger than the program. It's no question
Mm-hmm.
as to who needs who. But I've also seen this argument a lot about how K-pop is becoming too westernized and they're catering to America a lot, and many groups have English
Mm-hmm.
songs now, and it's all said in like a very negative way. But in my opinion, I haven't seen like a lot of people say that like the K-pop industry will cater to the biggest music markets for real. And for years now, K-pop has been also catering to the Japanese music market because they have the second biggest market. They'll have Japanese versions of their songs, they'll have full Japanese
Mm-hmm.
albums, they'll do extensive touring in Japan, and they'll even have multi-day fan sign events that happen in Japan that they don't do in other countries outside of Korea. And it makes sense because it's like that's what they want to cater. They want to get that business because there's also opportunities that come with that, just like there's opportunities that come with aligning yourself with the US music market. And I
Yeah.
think people tend to focus on like the American vein of it so much because I think it's new within like the last 10 years with like Psy breaking into the mainstream and BTS. Like I would say Psy like opened the window, BTS broke down the wall with it. I think you've just seen more possibility for the interactions to happen with K-pop in the American music
Mm-hmm.
industry. And so that's why I feel like you see so many people catering and you see the English albums and you see people doing more in the US. But the US is not the first or only market that
At all.
the industry will cater to. But yeah, I do think there is like an argument to be made about like the westernization in the sense that them wanting to, never mind, I'm gonna cut that out. I didn't know where I was going again. I'm sorry.
No, but
No,
I
no, I
hear
see your
I'm here
point.
with you. I'm here with you.
Yeah.
It's just hard to
I'm
talk
glad we're
about.
here.
It's hard to talk about because it's like you're fighting a ghost almost. Like you have to dive
Mm,
really deep into research to understand or to put examples to the things that we're saying because right now it just seems philosophical and like we're just critically thinking to some degree. But it's there. They just hide it.
yeah.
Yeah. So my only thing is, I agree with you. You make an excellent point about the market size and why it appeals to the businesses. I just feel that um, when they go to Japan, this is the only thing I'm going to say. I swear. Count me down. Okay.
Count me
Uh,
down is crazy. Talk as long as you want, girl.
so when we look at Japan, the way they enter Japan, the way they interact with their Japanese audience is very different from the way they're bowing down to everyone here, listening to insults that they get from the anchors, from the journalists, bending over backwards and basically begging for that bloody Grammy that they do not need. That is what I'm talking about. That is unnecessary. You want the American market? Go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. That's smart business sense and it's smart as an artist as well. I just feel that this intense desire, which Rose explained beautifully as well, to get approval from those who control the industry is a disservice to their talent and to their soft power, which is immense. But
Mm-hmm. But then,
colonization and all that.
just to add, but then if you're not going for that, if you're not trying to get that approval, like T said, it immensely cuts down your opportunities that you can have. Like, not everyone has fandom like Army. Army, y'all are scary. I'm not gonna lie. The things that y'all can do, it's impressive. But not, okay, relax. But not everyone has a fandom like Army that can support them, even if they don't get the approval of the big dog, you know? Like, I think AT's, to a degree, isn't necessarily going for the approval of the big dogs, but they still need it because 18E. I love 18E fandom. We're so funny, but we're not as big and as in your face as Army. And so sometimes I'm like, okay, if something goes wrong, can 18E help withstand ATs? And I don't know. I really don't. ATs has only been here like what 6-7 years, so we're still marinating. But not all groups have the support that they need, and so they do need to get approval from them. It's the way the system's set up. It's set up to get you. You're gonna get caught in the system. That's the only way for you to be quote unquote successful in the industry, to get those opportunities.
But yeah, to what Shreya said, I do agree. It is sometimes sad that it does seem like the overly catering, like the, oh, we want it for like validation or and whatnot. I agree, that can seem very exhausting. But I also think the Grammys and things like that are framed so much like they are like, oh my goodness, this is the creme de la creme, that it's like they feel like that is like the, oh, I made it moment, where it's like, oh
Yeah.
I'm here, you know what I mean, when it's like they don't need it, but you know.
Yeah.
Let's have this conversation again in 10 years.
Mm.
See what's
Period.
happened.
Yeah, honestly, until that entire BTS fiasco about over the Grammys and how sad they were about not winning the Grammys, but how mm, unaffected they wanted to behave or portray themselves to be. That is what got me thinking that, oh my god, they actually want this. Until that point, I was like, why do they need it? They're doing it. Oh, okay, it's a one-off thing that they got nominated and they're happy about it. But it's not like their go-to thing. That this is not the only thing that they have, because they have other things to achieve. They have achieved so much. Then I realized that no, they're falling into the same narrative. So I was like, okay.
I just want to reiterate, I don't think it's a bad thing that they want these things. I just think they need to understand why they want it. Like, you have to be able to distinguish what's the reason for wanting this, so you can understand why you're upset when you do lose. Because I think that level of critical thinking is something you develop as an idol as you get older. And I think BTS is at that point, and other idols are getting there. I don't think it's a bad thing to want it. Just why do you want it? Because if you just want it for the recognition, there's other ways to get recognition that don't involve selling your soul. I keep saying selling your soul, which is very dramatic, but I feel like that encompasses what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I don't know where I stand on it, but I just feel that like this colonial mindset that they have is not going to get them anywhere. But anyway, moving on.
Okay, so that was a great conversation, and now we're going to move into our segment, which Rose will take over.
Hi, it's Rose, here to talk about the segment. So, for this segment, we are going to be focusing on answering one question, which is what 3 songs or groups or both, just pick 3, that you would share with someone to get them into K-pop / introduce them to K-pop. What is that? We've been talking a lot today, bro. I feel like we've been talking for 4 hours. But what does anyone want to go first? Do we want to do it like you explain your 3, or do you want to do one at a time?
Just explain your 3, I guess.
Yeah.
My 3 are interconnected. So, who wants to go first?
I have 3, I have 4, but one of them is really controversial.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it anyway. J-Park's Mermaid. I know J-Park's I know he's a problematic artist, but that song smack.
I don't know who that is.
He did that one thing. He ate that one thing.
Song.
Continue.
That one song. Just that
That's
one
all
song.
I give him. That's it.
That's it. That one song. I am willing to separate the art from the artist for that one song. But that's one song that I would definitely suggest. The next is Standing Next to You. The reason why I would suggest the reason I suggest this song is because it appeals. I mean, if somebody is new to it, it would give them vibes that they're familiar with, but it also brings that nostalgic vibe that comes in with the 80s rock and pop. It's beautiful. It reminds me of Michael Jackson. I love it. But it's also, because it has Jungkook in it, it'll also help them be like, oh, okay, who's this artist? And then they'd go into BTS. And then they're in K-pop land. Yeah. So that's why. And next is EXO. EXO is actually really fun. It's a really fun pop group. Monster, I like Love Shot because I like Karen. But there's also Calling Baby, something, Call Me Back Baby, something like that.
Call Me
Call Me Baby,
Baby.
Call Me Baby. Yeah, fun songs. All of their music is really peppy, and it's a fun beat to it. I like it. So these would be my three choices. Soft introductions to K-pop.
For my three, I picked three very popular songs, and I feel like all of them are like gateway songs in their own right. So the first one I have is Mic Drop by BTS. I think that this is a song that when I've seen like a lot of reactors, this song tends to have people be like, oh, I didn't know BTS got down like that. You know what I mean? Like I think it's a great introduction song that kind of brings people in. And it's hip hop, so that tends to, it's a nice genre to start off with. Second, I'm between two. It's either Fancy by Twice or Doo 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 by Blackpink. I think both of them are super popular, by the way, but I think both of them have very engaging music videos. They were both like pretty much songs of the years. Like people were like playing and singing these songs on repeat. And I just think it's a good introduction. I'm between the two because I think not so much with the song Fancy, but I think sometimes the cutesy vibes, especially if you're not into anime first, the cutesy vibes that sometimes happen in K-pop are kind of like to people because they don't get it and they don't take it as serious. But the girl crush concept that Blackpink kind of has, I feel like people tend to like really like that. But also Twice has kind of like a more cool vibe in Fancy. The last song I picked is The Real by ATEEZ because I just feel like it's a great song. The visuals are amazing. I think if nothing else, you'll be like, oh my goodness, wow. That's crazy. And it kind of gives anime vibes a little bit as well, especially with like the yeah part and like all the effects and everything. So I just think that these are like hype songs that like everyone can kind of like be like, oh wow, I'm intrigued. And then they would continue on their K-pop journey. Yes.
So I don't have songs, but I have groups. I picked three groups. And so I would start with introducing people to the Rose. I think the Rose as a group is a very good um transitional point between like Western music and K-pop music, what people are more used to. I think their songs are still in Korean, and so you're not necessarily listening, understanding the lyrics. You would have to dive into it, but the music itself, like the production of the music, is really beautiful and impactful. I think so. I think it's a good transitional point. You're not necessarily fully into K-pop, but you're like, okay, if this is what K-pop, this is one version of K-pop, I'm into it. Then, also, I have to preface, it's been a year. I don't know all the groups. I just know very specific types. Then I would introduce them to BTS because I think BTS is a good explanation as to the importance of lyrics. Like, I think a lot of people look at K-pop and they're like, oh, the lyrics are nothing. They're just talking about cutesy stuff. But BTS has a really good way, or are really powerful in their lyrics. The way that they call out systems and talk about things like mental health. And do they talk about gender bias? Or was it just that song that they got called out for and he educated himself?
They have a few songs that
talked about
that. Okay. 21st Century Girl, stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. But they talk about really impactful and important things, and it makes you think. I think the whole point of music is to make you feel and make you think, and I think BTS does a good job of that. So from the Rose, I'd introduce them to BTS and be like, okay, now this is what K-pop looks like, but I'll look at the messaging, look at everything underneath. And then I would introduce them to ATEEZ. This isn't from a biased perspective. I really thought about it. But I would introduce them to ATEEZ because I think ATEEZ is like the full package in terms of performance. Because you transition into K-pop with the Rose. The BTS shows you like everything underneath and what it looks like. And then ATEEZ is like, okay, but this is like what K-pop is meant to be. The rapping, the singing, the in-your-face performances. I do think that ATEEZ has set a certain standard now, at least with 4th Gen, when it comes to what a performance should be, what energy you bring. And so I feel like people, if I introduce someone from the Rose to BTS to ATEEZ, they get a good holistic understanding of what is a K-pop, how do they perform, what does it mean, all this stuff. So I would go that way.
Fair.
Thank you. But I don't know all the groups. I'm getting into Twice right now, honestly. They've been taking over my social media. Twice and 17.
They're real good. When they come over here to tour next year, we'll see if I'm there. I gotta get a job, but we'll see. I'll be there if I can.
We'll see. I'll go with you. I'm really enjoying getting to know Twice and TXT and 17. I think the three of them have just kind of taken over my For You page. or YouTube Reels, but yeah.
TXT going back on tour now. Okay.
Such talent.
Okay. Well, I hope you guys check those songs out. That's all for this podcast. So until next time, stay curious.
Stay true.
And stay unapologetically you. Bye.
Bye.